On this episode of Locked On Canadiens, Montreal's win streak comes to an end, but more importantly, the status of Patrik Laine is up in the air.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to episode 1211 of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you so much for making us your first list of the day and for subscribing wherever you get your podcasts, including here on YouTube. Doing that supports the show and ensures you do not miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian, and I am joined as always by one Laura Saba. We have just finished watching the Canadiens' last game of, before the Christmas break, a 5-4 loss to Columbus. But how are you feeling heading into this break? I feel like both the Canadiens and us are due a bit of a break here. I feel like we need to take a chill pill for a while.
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to get into that in our first segment. But I do really quickly want to remind everyone that this is the absolute last call for our contest. And if you have not heard of our contest before, you can see on the YouTube, if you're watching us on YouTube, Ian is giving away his 13x11 precious picture of Carey Price that is signed. It is signed.
Yeah.
And it has an authenticity sticker or whatever it is. So you know it's authentic. And Ian is parting with it. And Ian, do you really quickly want to tell people how they can enter the contest?
Yeah. Yep. So enter the contest by sending us your Spotify wraps or whatever Spotify or podcast year-end wrap-up things that you might have. Or send us a screenshot of a nice review that you left for us on whatever podcast app you use. Doing that helps the show. And we'll enter you in this contest. We're doing the drawing shortly after the holidays. So get those in. Like we said, I think 11:59 Eastern on Christmas Day is absolute last call. So good luck. And we really appreciate all you guys reaching out and the kind words that you've left for us. Sometimes it's tough to know who's actually listening to the show, but it's nice that we get some really nice feedback from you guys. So we thank you as always, and we're very happy you guys are along for the ride.
Yeah, and I really want to quickly say that comments are not reviews. So comments you won't be eligible. So you can either post a review or you can post us in your top 5 of whatever your podcast app is. And lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. Reminder, that is the email where you can send your screenshot. So sorry about that.
No, you're good. All right, let's start where kind of today started for the Montreal Canadiens, which was a story that came out in The Athletic from Columbus beat writer Aaron Portzline on Patrik Laine. And I guess Patrik Laine gave some time to Portzline and other reporters and kind of explained why he wanted out of Columbus. And it sparked a little bit of controversy. I'll read some of his quotes here verbatim so that you know what was said and you're not just hearing it secondhand. When I signed a contract here, I made it clear I love being here, that it was going great, and I didn't want to leave. Obviously, things happened, and that was kind of it for me. I feel like we were just doing the same thing year after year. I was tired of losing and just giving up when it's December to start focusing on next year. I'm not going to do that. That's frustrating as a player when you're trying to win, and some people are, not like that. They're a little too satisfied and too comfortable where they're at. It wasn't really a fit for me anymore, but here in Montreal, it doesn't matter if we're winning or losing. We're always trying to be our best. That's what I felt about it in Columbus. He was asked if it was teammates or management. He said, I'll leave that up for everyone's imagination, but certainly people that were a little too comfortable and fine with losing and just doing the same thing year after year. I'm going to leave that up for discussion for everyone else. So it's rare we get a hockey player who speaks his mind like that and puts it so bluntly. My only criticism of that statement is that don't do it before a game against the team that you're criticizing. That's
do it after the
material. Yes, do it after the game. Because who knows, maybe if he doesn't do that before the game, maybe he finishes the game. We'll get into that sort of in our second segment, but Columbus was angry. They were taking runs at him. It was very clear that what he said frustrated them. And to quote Zach Werenski after the game, he said, it's unfortunate for him to bash us like that. I think it's just unacceptable. We were nothing but good teammates to him. For him to come in and say that is expletive, word I cannot say on this show. Definitely
BS.
not happy about it, and none of us in the room are happy about it. It speaks more about him than it does about us. What's he thinking saying that? It's just incredible. I've talked a lot. Your turn to talk, Laura. How do you
Yeah.
feel?
All right. So here's the thing is that, like you said, it's bulletin board material. So you don't do it before a game, right? But I think part of it was blown out of proportion, not just by the team members themselves, but also by fans. Because if you look at what he was saying, the definition of doing the same thing over again year after year, that doesn't sound like players. That sounds institutional, right?
Right.
That sounds like an organization problem, right? And I understand 100%. I understand why teammates and fans took it that way, but he himself in the past has not said anything disparaging about his teammates, particularly in Columbus, right? But the thing is, was what he said untrue? Like, you look at the Columbus Blue Jackets organization, was it untrue? Right?
Yeah.
We talked so much
No.
about Buffalo. We talked so much about Buffalo. Like, here's the thing, too. Like, we laugh at the Ottawa Senators rebuild because it's been taking a million years, but at least they do different things. They try different things. They make changes, right? The changes fail, but they're not stubbornly just sticking to the same plan. And like, honestly, I know that there were changes last year, but that reeks of Yarmo, doesn't it? The
Yeah.
way the draft was the same under him, and he was around for a long time. The way they drafted, like the coaches he selected, the players that he wanted to bring on, like I truly don't see how he was talking about the players when they change night in and night out, right? And like
Yeah.
I feel like he would be smarter than to disrespect his teammates like that, and they now unfortunately feel disrespected, and we're gonna have to talk about this for the next 2 weeks, particularly because there's no game for, like, 4 days, and it's unfortunate, and I just like, the only thing that I think, like and here's the thing, like, players we talk about how players are cookie cutter and boring and they're never honest, and like in their interviews they just say these rehearsed PR, rehearsed hockey PR bites, sound bites.
Yeah.
And you have a player that's being honest and telling the truth and being critical of something, and now all of a sudden everyone's angry about it. Like, we can't
Yeah.
have it both ways,
Yeah.
if
That
we
is
want.
that is how I feel.
Yes.
That's part of it, right? Is
Yeah.
that we want these guys to be open and honest, and we want to see that.
Yeah.
And then the second it happens, we chastise the player who did it.
Exactly, and I'm glad he said it because I don't think that he was wrong. I think, maybe he could have been a little bit more, he could have chosen the timing a little bit more carefully.
Yeah.
But he said it himself, like he liked the fans in Columbus and all of that. Like, I just really think that we can't criticize, or it's not that we can't criticize him. Like, I'm sure we can criticize anything any player says. I just think that we can't all jump on him in the way that we have, and in the case of the Columbus Blue Jackets, like physically on the ice, if we're going to keep talking about how these players need to show their personalities. I'm glad he was honest. I support that honesty. I'm not necessarily defending the timing, but the way that he was talking, like, it reeked of Yarmo Kekalainen to me. Like, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that that's the key distinction here, and I think that Patrik Laine doesn't want to come out and just outwardly say that it's Jarmo Kekalainen, because I don't know if you know this, they're both Finnish and they're both involved in hockey. I would imagine that Jarmo Kekalainen at some point in time is going to have his hands on like the Finnish national program. It's probably not a good idea to get him directly on your bad side. The other part of this for me is that I think whatever you thought about Patrik Laine on the morning of Monday, December 23rd, is how you feel about him at the end of the game. If you went into that game thinking he's a diva who is a toxic person in the locker room and who does this in every city, then that's what you thought before coming into the day, and that's what you think at the end of the day. If you think Patrik Laine is somebody who has played on a bunch of teams with really bad environments, that's what you think at the end of the day. Like, this doesn't change anything. And I think for Zach Werenski here, I read his quote. We were nothing but good teammates to him. He didn't say you were bad teammates. You wanted to hear that. You wanted to find that bulletin board material. And that's why I'm kind of the one criticism I have. I already said, don't say that before a game, man. Like, that's I understand, like, he feels like he's at a point where he can make that stand and maybe have an impact on this game, and we'll talk about that in the second segment here. But I just think whatever you thought of Patrik Laine coming into Monday morning, you will think about that the same way on Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning, which is Christmas, and Thursday morning, and which is Boxing Day. You'll just continue to think this, right? So I don't. I think we made a whole lot of something out of nothing here, to be honest. So that is what it is. So that ultimately did lead into some of the play in the game where we saw Patrik Laine take a bunch of big hits in the first period and then not finish the period. So we'll cover what we know about Patrik Laine's injury there and talk about the rest of the Columbus game in just a moment. Today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. If you love sports, you're going to love PrizePicks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your other favorite sports, PrizePicks makes it easy for you to get in on the action. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, PrizePicks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. This week on PrizePicks, I'm eyeing the hockey board, looking at Cole Caulfield for more than 4 shots on goal and Lane Hutson for more than 1 assist. It's so simple to make my picks and have fun with my friends while potentially cashing out fast. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly on PrizePicks. Run your game. All right, we are back for our second segment. We're going to talk about that 5-4 loss in Columbus. My main takeaway here is that the game was close, obviously. They lost by a goal in the last few minutes of the game, which is a terrible way to lose a game. But I think it was close because Columbus really didn't have much gas after Laine left the game. I think their whole game plan was we're going to hit this guy and generate energy off of it. And then as soon as he wasn't on the ice, they were sort of like, well, now what do we do? And I thought the Canadiens were bad in the first period, and I thought they were disinterested in the third period. Second period was great. If they played like they played in the second period the whole game, we would have been fine. They erased 2-goal leads and then had the lead early in the third period. Yeah. And still nothing. So what are you thinking at the end of that game?
So I've decided that I'm inventing something called the Matla meter. So peek behind the curtain. The three of us have a group chat, and the gentlemen are quite active during the games, whereas I'm using all 2 of my brain cells to try to focus on the game. So I usually respond belatedly to anything they're saying. But the Matla meter is how hopeless Scott sounds in his texts, and then like how it changes over the game. So yeah. It went from, the Columbus Blue Jackets are going to win the game to Jake Evans is a golden god or whatever.
Yeah, it's forget Money Puck. Forget Money Puck's deserve to win a meter. We're replacing it with the Matla meter, and we're gonna respect his privacy, obviously, but we will bring this to your attention as we see appropriate.
Yeah, these are not direct quotes, by the way. I'm translating the vibes, is what I'm doing.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned Jake Evans. Let's start with something positive about this game and really about the last week. This dude just rules now, huh? Like this is
so good.
This is great. I jokingly said that like after we lost Laine, I was like, screw it, put Evans on power play 1. I don't care. Like the guy's scoring at an insane clip right now. Just put him out there.
Yeah, Marty.
He was the extra attacker with 6-on-5. He was one of the extra guys out there, so Marty understands.
Like that was a reward for him, right? So Jake Evans, really, if he had better hands, he would be a top liner. He does all the other things right? Like he plays a defensively sound game. He's very physical. He knows when and how to use his speed. He knows when and how not to use it. He tends not to get himself into terrible situations. If I think about who I would want on the team, like in a situation where you're down a man, in a situation where the opposing team is pressing, in a situation where you need to survive a period. Jake Evans is one of the first guys that comes to mind. I can't say he's the first guy, right? Like I've got my Nick Suzuki, but I definitely think that Jake Evans is top there. Unfortunately, he just doesn't have better hands. Like if he had a little bit more talent in those hands, and you can see too, like look back on that long playoff run, you can see why he got targeted by the coward Mark Scheifele, who, by the way, imagine giving up 3 goals to the coward Mark Scheifele. Do you know who did that today? The Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, they did. Anything better than beating the Leafs?
um Truly, that was really funny. But getting back to Jake Evans, like, he's clearly a key player, right? Like, he's those guys, he's a high caliber depth guy. And it's like you can't find guys like that are homegrown. Like, they're from the Canadiens organization. Like, that's a huge success story for them, because they've literally squeezed every drop of potential out of this guy, and they've
Yeah.
been able to do it. And not only that, he's still young enough to keep going. Like, and we're joking about having to say goodbye to him, but he is going to be the most sought after Montreal Canadien at the trade deadline. Like, they're going to be making more calls about Jake Evans than any other guy, and they're going to be offering more for Jake Evans than any other guy. The only thing is, we just have to keep hoping that once whatever his rental period is over, the Canadiens call him and he says yes to come back.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite outcome here is he secures the bag for Montreal, and then Montreal secures the bag for Jake Evans. I think that is the outcome that I think most Canadians fans can get behind, because I don't think that it makes sense to uh, whiff on this trade value that Jake Evans is building. That's not to say I don't want him in Montreal. It's the opposite. I do. I also think that he could be an incredibly important part of a team's Stanley Cup run. Like, I get that feeling from Jake Evans. He just does so much so well. We're gonna leave the defenseman for the second segment, or the third segment rather, because I think the entire third segment we need to just talk about that top pair, because oh my god. Um, the other takeaways from this game, I thought the first line was quiet. You can't win a ton of games when they're quiet. I thought Cole Caulfield had some good looks throughout the game. Kirby Doc, this is our what's up doc for the day. The moment the game turned on one moment in my mind, which was the game was tied in the third. He got 3 solid whacks at a puck from point blank range on Jet Greaves. Jet Greaves, one of the coolest names in hockey, by the way. That's awesome. That should be a spy movie, not an
Yeah,
NHL goaltender.
there are a few Blue Jackets with good names.
Yeah, but Jet Greaves for me is top.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
so cool.
absolutely.
He was the coolest kid in school, and you know it. But like, he had 3 whacks at it. In the post game, in the dressing room, they asked him what he could have done differently, and he said maybe shot left-handed. So I think he's taking it in stride. Like, is that just the player who's cursed? Is that where we're
Yes.
at with Kirby Doc? Like,
When
any other player buries that.
No, well, that's the thing, because I saw that and I was like, that moment could only happen to Kirby Doc out of
Correct.
500. I don't know how many NHL
Yeah,
players.
it would have been Yoel Armia like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That would have
Yeah.
been a Yoel Armia moment.
Yes. And now it's a Kirby Doc moment. And this is the thing. I saw, like, I felt bad because everyone was like, "Oh, look at his face. Oh, I'm so sorry for him. I feel so sorry for him." I was like, he knew that was coming.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and like, as he got the third whack, he kind of got taken out from his legs, and he, like, his body language as he was falling, he was like, "Ugh." Like, he was so mad that he didn't score, but he's also being slide tackled from behind. So
This
it's
man
just it
needs
was
3 therapists. Like,
yeah. I mean, the good thing is he's joking about it in the locker room. Like, he's not letting these things, at
Yeah.
least externally, he's
Yeah.
not letting these things bother him, which
Yeah.
is good. It's a shame because I thought Kirby Doc had a decent game. I thought he had a good game. Granted, it's not like the level where we expect him to be, but of course that we need to. We're grading Doc on a curve for the year, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that was a decent game from him. I'm hoping that he uses the break to recharge, and we see him come out and put up some really impressive games down in Florida.
I agree. Like, I think he just needs to get you talked about it yesterday. It's not his hands, it's not his leg anymore, it's not his knee. You're worried about his head. Me too. Like, he
Yeah.
needs to get his head right. So whatever it is the Canadians need to do, or he needs to do to get his head right, like, I'm all for that.
Yeah. The last thing on this game that I want to talk about is the story going in was Patrik Laine returning to Columbus, and of course it's 2 former players on each team that scores in this one. David Savard scores on a rush. He jumped up on the rush and banged home a rebound, and Jordan Harris unleashed a slap shot from the blue line that hit the post and went in. So
Can
that
I
was
just
his first goal of the year, by the way, Jordan Harris. So of course it's against Montreal.
Of course. Can I just ask you, when you were watching him play, did you not just miss him a lot?
Yeah, of course I miss that guy.
Yeah, I miss that guy.
Every team needs more guys who, as Locked On Blue Jackets host Jay Forrester said, can read, and
Yes.
Jordan Harris can read. So like I of course I miss that guy. I'm stoked that he's getting an opportunity though. He wasn't going to get that in Montreal, right? Like even right now we're
Absolutely,
talking about
100%.
defensemen. He doesn't shoot right. Like he would still be like Struble is the guy sitting, and he would be behind Struble. So like I'm glad he's getting a good opportunity because he's a good dude and a good hockey player, and he deserves it. So really pumped up for that guy. I hope they celebrated a lot on that one in the locker room. I'm sure he had some money on the board for that one. So anyway, we will move on to our third segment where we need to talk about one Mike Matheson yet again, and whether or not Montreal needs to change up that top defensive pair. We'll get into all that in just a second. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. I'll say that again. You'll get started with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. Last segment before Christmas. And the first night of Hanukkah, if that's what you celebrate. But this is it, last one.
Yes.
And we will
real quick,
Sure.
listeners, we are taking a break for a couple of days. Christmas and Boxing Day, we are off, but we're back with a mailbag on Friday.
Yes, and we're headed into the break the same way we've talked about the same way we've done many episodes, which is talking about Mike Matheson.
Here's a question for you.
Sure, go
Who
for
is
it.
the main character of this podcast? Is it Kirby Doc or is it Mike Matheson?
No, it's Mike Matheson. 1,000% Mike Matheson. When I was doing my old show, The Build, the main characters were Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes. That's where I focused my attention, right? In this one, because we do so much like day-to-day recaps of games and stuff, it's Mike Matheson because he's the story every night.
Game.
Yeah, he's either, and this is the thing, right? We've talked about, I use the term range of potential outcomes a lot. Mike Matheson's is the widest on the roster. Might be the widest in the National Hockey League, to be quite honest with you. Because he, and what I find so frustrating is you can usually tell by his first shift how the night is going to go. That's everyone's homework for the games on Saturday and Sunday and moving forward. Watch Mike Matheson's first shift and determine if he's going to have a good game. I guarantee you will be right. Because he comes out of the gate playing either gangbusters or, oh my God, we can't play this guy. And I think they're the top pair, right? Hudson and Matheson. Matheson, I will give him credit. He's playing on his offside. He will always get that grace from me and should get it from all hockey fans because it's difficult. When we talk about Caden Gooley not playing his right side, that's what I mean. But I think the fact that Marty St. Louis has been starting Gooley and Carrier to start every game and every period to be a bit of a Marty understands the assignment here, and to start Mike Matheson would be difficult because you don't know what you're getting out of him on any given shift. What are we doing with that top pair, Laura? Like, is there another option there besides playing Hudson with Matheson?
Yes, please split them up. Please try all the things before you settle on that. It's just like the thing that I fear is that if they split them up, they're going to be like, okay, Matheson with Gooley now. We saw that.
Yeah.
We don't want that. I don't want that. I think honestly, you might not necessarily split them up, but you could maybe play them in different situations and give them different assignments and see how that works. I don't know. It just feels like they're taking on the most, the assignments with the most pressure on them, but they're both offensive defensemen, so they're expected to contribute on the offense.
Yes,
but they're defensemen, so it's just like it's like this catch-22 situation. So I think maybe you just give the assignments to someone else for a while and you play them on the power plays and then, try and slot them other places. Because if you split them up, I literally don't see any other thing that they're going to do other than put Gooley and Matheson back together.
I have one suggestion. Arbor Xhekaj, play him up there. I know he'd be playing with
who?
Hudson on the first pair.
Are you serious?
You got to at least try it, I think, because
Okay,
Xhekaj's playing some very, very, very good hockey lately. I know that would be putting him on the left side, on his wrong side, but
also
you're
would
getting
be
a
increasing
steadier
his
defensive
minutes.
presence. You would be increasing his minutes. However, with Alex Carrier here, he does not penalty kill anymore. He's taken off the penalty kill. So that, to me, is an option. So we'll see, or at least he doesn't penalty kill as much. He doesn't play the power play, just like Matheson and Hudson both play the power play. By the end of the game, they've got to be cooked, right? So I think that it's time for that kind of defensive presence on that top pair, because I just don't get me wrong, Lane Hudson makes a lot of mistakes with the puck too. The challenge I have though is that he's 20, right? He's 20 and he's played, what was this, game 34? He's played 36 games in the NHL. That's to be expected, and we're supposed to let him live and learn through those problems. He cannot have another partner on the other side who is also making those mistakes. And, I know Matheson can have very good nights. We've seen it. But tonight against Columbus, it just felt like every play that he made, he hesitated and thought differently of it right as he was making the play. And he overthought things and just made the wrong play more often than not. And you just can't have that when you have a 20-year-old defenseman on the other side. So I'm starting the campaign now. I want to see Xhekaj Hudson before too long. Will it happen? No. But that to me solves a lot of problems. And then you can go back to the grandpa pair. You can go back to Savard and Matheson. And you can give Savard a legitimate option to carry the play offensively.
Yeah.
Because we keep seeing Arbor Xhekaj try to jump up in those plays to provide a little bit of offense while that pair is on the ice. But it would be better if Matheson could play that role. And then you could still play Matheson on the power play, and you could still put Matheson on the penalty kill, right? I'm not saying, send this guy to Corsica. I'm not saying just get rid of him. I'm saying that we cannot trust him on if we cannot trust him on a top pair with a 20-year-old defenseman. It just can't happen anymore.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a lot of Mike Matheson chatter. Anything else on this week that was for the Montreal Canadiens? I know it's only Monday as we're recording this, but you got anything else for me?
Not really. I did, once again, just want to say Jake Evans is awesome. And I'm going to give the details of the contest just one last time.
Yeah.
The deadline is 11:59 p.m. on Christmas Day on the 25th Eastern time. The email address is lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. The entries are, it cannot be a positive comment. It has to be either something showing us that we are in your top listens on Spotify, on YouTube Music, on whatever app of your choice. We have to be in your top 5, or you can leave us a review. It doesn't have to be a 5-star review, but it should be recent. Leave us a review on any other podcast app and send us a screenshot of that, please. I will confirm to you if you're entered. If I have not confirmed to you, either your entry is ineligible or I missed it, please re-up it, and we will give you some time between that deadline and the day that we do the official drawing, just to make sure. And once again, the prize is a 13 by 11 signed picture of Carey Price that is Ian's precious piece of Habs memorabilia to give away to our listeners, because we just love you that much.
Absolutely.
All
Laura,
right.
do you have our trivia question from
I do.
last episode? Let's
Yes,
do it.
that was another piece of housekeeping, is that trivia is on a break just for this week. We will be back next week with trivia. So on our Friday episode, it's literally just all mailbag. The Friday episode is all mailbag.
Oops, all mailbag.
And it's a good one too. Anything that, there's a bunch of really good questions that you guys asked. All right, trivia time. The question that I asked yesterday was, name this player from the NHL career trajectory. And the trajectory is Washington Capitals, Boston Bruins, Pittsburgh Penguins, Ottawa Senators, Dallas Stars, Montreal Canadiens. And Ian, you had the answer.
I did, and Boston tripped me up, but I did get it. It's one Sergei Gonchar, who I believe personally belongs in the Hall of Fame. He's
Yeah.
not in there currently. His numbers are great. Sergei Gonchar, Montreal Canadiens Hall of Famer.
Okay, here's a question for you. Do you think of Sergei Gonchar as a Washington Capital or as a Pittsburgh Penguin?
Pittsburgh Penguin. That was when
Same.
I was coming into watching hockey, and he was at his best with the Penguins. So yeah, he's a Penguin through and through.
Same. All right,
Yeah.
that's it for our trivia.
Awesome.
And we will have trivia again starting next week.
Yes, we will. But that's going to do it for us on this episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thanks so much for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey, become a fantasy hockey expert, and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on Blue Sky and just about everywhere else as Locked On Canadiens. You can find Laura at The Active Stick. You can find me at Maybe It's Ian. From both of us here at Locked On Canadiens, we're wishing you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah and Happy Holidays, and we will see you all again on Friday.